A very good morning to everybody. Thank you so much for joining us all for week 15 of the Export Recovery Panel. It is a weekly series by New Zealand's exporters for New Zealand's exporters, as together we path a new journey towards greater prosperity for ourselves and our businesses, our communities, and of course for our country. I'm absolutely delighted today to be joined for our first, hopefully, of many longer form interviews with two representatives, two founders and two of the driving force behind one of New Zealand's most iconic design-led exporters, Blunt Umbrellas. So I'm going to say, without further ado, I'm going to say a very good morning to Todd Graydon and to Greig Brebner. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How you doing?
Oh, well.
Doing really well. Yeah, it's raining.
Yeah. It's raining. If it's raining, you're happy. That's all I can say. You are the only people that I know who currently have their fingers crossed for as much rain and wet weather as we can get. How did you both survive lockdown? You're back in the office by the looks of things. Is Blunt HQ's back in business?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we are. We've been back for a few weeks now, and yeah, we brought the team back in fairly quickly. Not for any main reason, only that we felt that we're trying to be a well-oiled machine, a high-performance team, and working from home, whilst it is good fun and it was a change, and it had lots of ups. There was a few downs, and obviously that bond in this team's pretty tight. So it was good to get back in, get everyone rolling again on the true north, which is business.
So so Greg, from your point of view, from leading design teams and things, and having everybody disconnected, what was the most surprising thing you found about adapting to that sort of work?
I think initially it was super powerful. Everyone made a massive effort, but I think it was sort of a month, 6 weeks in, just the communication digitally was a bit of a challenge. And for those of us with projects which are quite, I guess, insular and working ourselves, it was really effective for me, for one, to get right into projects. But anything that required collaboration, I think after a month or so in lockdown was a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah,
quite inefficient. Yeah.
But it's nice. Everybody's got their kitchen tables at least half back to being kitchen table, and it's great to be around a boardroom table back in business. And I guess that's why we've moved from doing weekly webinars to doing interviews, because everybody's all of a sudden on the move again. And although everything's been recorded for 15 weeks, it showed me sitting in the same seats out in West Auckland. I was on a plane for the first time last week, and it was kind of strange and kind of normal all at the same time. Everybody was very quiet. And nobody sneezed. So, nobody dared even sniffle. It was quite amusing. But anyway, tell us a little bit about the background of Blunt. It's like you're one of these legendary startup stories that we've all heard of. It's Kiwi ingenuity meets finest engineering meets amazing marketing. It is really a story for the archives. Tell us where you came from, and just in brief, if anybody doesn't know your story, and a little bit about where you're heading as well.
Sure. Well, it started with me. I sort of grew up wanting to invent a product, I think, that was of significant value to the world. I had that sort of, I guess, need from quite a young age. And it's when I went to the UK on my OE in 1999 that just umbrellas, for some reason, just stuck out. I think it was just because I'm a bit taller and the spikes of umbrellas were trying to poke me in the eye on rainy days. So that's where it all started, really. And yeah, I just had this vision to make this amazing umbrella. And I was just a time in my life where I felt if I didn't do it, I wouldn't get anything else done. So I just went really deep in forcing myself to do it. So it took like 4 or 5 years to even get a prototype together. So sent me nuts in some ways, but obviously worth it in the long run. But yeah, that's how it all began. And then sorry.
So effectively, it was a rainy day in London.
Yeah, it was. And apparently it doesn't actually rain that much in London, which is ironic, but everyone thinks it does. It's just grey. It's just grey. So it rains a lot more in Auckland.
Like, yeah, umbrella sales are all in the mind, aren't they? It's like, just in case it will rain. It's like, that's what we're after. And Greg, you came on a few years ago to try to lead sorry, Todd, you came on a few years ago to try.
So basically,
we're recording this today. You've got quite a bit of noise in the background around there.
Is that us? Oh, there's a few people in the foyer. Is it picking it up, is it?
Yeah, I might just wait for them to roll.
I'll go and
Go and give him a... Yeah, I'm getting quite a lot of rumble. Oh.
Yeah.
There we go.
Here you go.
sorry about that.
That's right.
That's all right.
Yeah.
All part of it.
The benefit of doing records. It's like it's so relaxed. It's just, normally when you're sitting here, it's like, oh, pressure, people looking. Greg, you came on a few years ago. Todd came on a few years ago. I'm going to try that again. Todd, you're the general manager of global sales and marketing, so it's your job to keep the umbrellas up right away across the world. Tell us what it's been like trying to achieve that during COVID. What have you experienced? How's business been?
Yeah, look, it was interesting. Obviously, we had a contingency going into COVID. We're fairly small, so we're agile, and we had a contingency in play for a B plan and a C plan, which was a survival mode. And I guess the good thing is that because of the size of the business and because of the close proximity of the people, the frontline guys in the team, we didn't have to make any crazy decisions really quickly. We were making well-informed decisions. They were on the run, but they were a bit more wait and see as we went through it, and we probably didn't have to enact most of the contingency that we had in play for the total COVID time. It seems to have come right for us a little bit faster than we had planned. Not to say that there's more blood on the streets to come, but ideally we need it to rain to make sales, and in a COVID world or not, it just needs to rain.
It's a simple formula that just requires some divine intervention. It must be written into your business plan. So, of all your export markets, which ones were you most surprised about the speed of them bouncing back?
So Asia, probably, we're in 5 export markets in Asia, the ones that we kind of spend a little bit of time on. I mean, our strategy over the last 2 years has been reduce the number of the export markets that we've been selling and try and just focus in on 5 and taking back distribution in 3 of the 5, which means that we have full management control and we still have to invest into these markets probably a little bit more at the time. But Asia definitely swung around quicker than the other markets did, and we've seen an increase in that region since. And saying that though, there were a couple of markets that took a bit of a hit. Obviously, the US and the retail environment, that's down. It's still down. However, we see the corporate channel growing there. So it's probably just instead of spreading the markets thinner to go a little bit wider, it's just actually spreading the channels in the focus markets. Is probably what we're doing at the moment. That seems to be netting some good return.
So this must be almost like changing your perception of the way that you segment your markets and the channels that you rely on. I mean, we've been hearing lots about the move to online for just about every category that's selling into consumers. It's like, and this is like not just little increases, but massive shifts in demands and consumer behavior. I mean, you're selling through distributors, but selling direct as well. How's this change from intermediated or bricks and mortar resale towards direct? How's that impacted your plans, and are you having to keep changing?
Yeah, so if we look at our focus markets being New Zealand, Australia, and the UK now, we went live in the UK in the middle of COVID. It was past that kind of V&E speed. We had already committed. We couldn't pull out at that point, so we had to follow through on it. And look, it's been a really good result because of it. And it's more because the strategy that we have for each individual market. We don't hunt markets per se, we hunt cities. And within those cities, we hunt suburbs. So we actually drive that through the e-commerce channels. So through the analytics and the stats that we get out of who's buying and where they're buying online, is where we hunt. We have this strategy called the village strategy. But within that village, we will hunt a particular area. And if you want an example, say in Auckland here, Mount Eden Village, and we would look at what the stores were available in that village, what the clubs are, the local sporting clubs, the local bowling clubs, let's say, some of the lifestyle stores and the gift stores and the fashion stores in that area. We basically really hone in on them, and that is the driver of what becomes, a city-owned strategy. So we know that Manchester, for instance, rains more often than London, so that's our prime target in UK and in Australia. East New South Wales rains more than Victoria, but actually Melbourne rains more often, so that's our target in Australia. So we've been quite, in terms of pointy, single-minded vision. That's our pitch point we get. Pitch perfect.
Super focus. It's inspiring to hear. It must now give you a few challenges, though. I mean, nobody's jumping on a plane. We're kind of, the world's been brought together, but we've been never further apart in reality. So when your business relies on very, very localized insights that have to be validated and understood before they can be leveraged, how is this changing the way you're looking at market development when you can't be there on the ground to try to coordinate where to go and who to speak to and how to connect? So it's like, what changes do you foresee having to make in your business to adapt to this low touch world which we're moving into?
Well, welcome Zoom, I guess. Ideally, international markets and export markets are driven on relationships. And, 90% of everything that you do in these markets is built on a relationship with that person. And yeah, it's a different way to make a relationship, but in short, when you eyeball someone and you can have a good, honest conversation with them, in terms of, the human part of it is the barriers don't seem to be there. Zoom it doesn't create a barrier. The validation and validating the markets and all those bits and pieces still can occur in and around that. But we have a boots on the ground strategy that goes in line with those markets. And so we had a person in the UK employed and ready to go for the launch, and the same for Australia.
So this hyper-local approach, I mean, plainly it means that you're increasing your chance of success, but you're actually limiting the reach of where you go. Is this a way of developing markets that you think more Kiwi companies with specialist niche high-value products should be following your lead and exploring?
Yeah, 100%. Like early days with Blunt, because we had such a special offering, I guess everyone was interested in it. So to get it out there, we just made a lot of noise, and then we had distributors come and find us really. So we ended up with a lot of, I guess we had 30-something countries quite quickly. But because we didn't have that depth, the home market was the only one that really sung. So for us, it was what did we do in this local market that we can emulate overseas? And it really came down to that depth and that village strategy that we were doing just by accident because we were here. And it really comes down to the word of mouth. And it's that human-to-human talking about a product, which is so valuable. So what we're trying to do really is just to get that happening. So it's just seeding that word of mouth, and it's just seeding in hyper-focused areas and making that happen. And it happens in all sorts of areas that you wouldn't think. Like in just a schoolyard, if you can just get into a schoolyard and people just picking up their kids after school on a rainy day and they've got blunts, like if you get 10% of them, then it's going to grow quite quickly. So that happened here pretty much by accident. So it's just recognising all those wins and trying to make them work in other places.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing. I was walking down the high street yesterday in Auckland in the rain, and then I think that 9 out of 10 umbrellas would have been Blunt Umbrellas coming through.
Yeah,
and they've just it's lovely to see such amazing innovation and engineering that's just taken for granted by Kiwis now. But the New Zealand's, like, you don't take your New Zealand connections for granted at all. I mean, New Zealand plays quite an important part in the commercial vision for what you're doing over the years. Greig, how's your use of New Zealand and brand New Zealand adapted? Because you're a New Zealand company, but not necessarily a New Zealand brand overseas. How have you taken the best of New Zealand and used that to help you build the business you've got today?
It's kind of swung all over the place. Like initially, I guess we were trying to be just international. So when we went to some trade shows, people thought we were the distributors locally selling this German product, and because everything was so minimalist, it was like, you're from Germany, and we're like, well, no, we're not, we're just from New Zealand. But it was a compliment, so we thought that was great. And then we got our distributors together for some meetings, and they were like, you've got to talk about New Zealand more, because New Zealand, the products that come from New Zealand have got this great image that you're not leveraging off. So we kind of swung back and forward, and then I guess about 3 or 4 years in, we really started to throw New Zealand imagery at our branding, and then that did help. But the problem is we didn't really know, like we weren't validating enough in our markets to know what was working and what wasn't. So that's where this word of mouth sort of came back. It didn't really matter what our strategy was. It was just getting people to use the product and have a better experience and talk about it to make it win. But yeah, that's where I guess we're going forward. We need to be a lot more New Zealand focused.
The government is a number of times in recent weeks when talking about export recovery has lent very, very heavily on the role of brand New Zealand and that magic New Zealandness, which we all to some extent leverage off. I mean, like Todd, do you think there's a chance that we can burn out our use of brand New Zealand and use it too heavily? Should we be thinking in a more independent way about how we position our brands overseas?
Yeah, look, we discuss it a lot here. I mean, it's firmly in our DNA in everything we do, and we believe that there's a big opportunity. But to be able to kind of try and sing off the same hymn sheet when we're telling that story, and I mean, Greig, tells the stories far better than I do around that. But in terms of having it has to be run by the industry. It has to be run by us, but it needs a single-minded vision for all. So someone needs to run that. Someone's going to have to pick it up and lead it. And now we're too small for that.
Yeah.
So it needs to be almost government-led, and it needs to be an initiative that everyone's in, boots and all. And so that's what we're quite interested in to talk or discuss this in formats. But
it's just that the process we've been through with Blunt and the single-minded vision and what we mean, and just how that can be scaled up for the whole country. And we're all doing so much great stuff, and it's sort of going in the same direction, but it's not being defined as such, so that it feels like everyone's doing their own thing, trying to go the same direction, but it's not owned to a point. And it's just the sustainability side is, like everyone talks about it heaps, but it's got so much potential in New Zealand. We've just got so much great ingredients, and the world just loves us for what we've got. So it's just nurturing that, and someone putting together, I guess, that single-minded vision that we can all work towards. But so much good ingredients.
It does feel a little bit like we're at the start of a collaborative renaissance in business in this country. It's like the topics come up time and time again when we've been discussing it over the last few weeks about companies needing to work together. It's like there's no point in fighting on your own out there in the world. We've got to stand together and support each other as well. And to a greater or lesser extent, like government has to lead part of that, to provide the infrastructure for us to stand together. What are you experiencing at the moment around like this attitude of openness to share information, to collaborate better? Is it making your current growth strategy easier to implement, or have you yet to experience this bonhomie which everyone's been talking about?
I think we stand alone in what we're trying to do a bit with our product, because we're in such a different category from so many other. So we don't really fit into a theme as such. But having said that, we've got our own sustainable sort of credentials that we're trying to run by. So tell me more about the role of sustainability, because it's a core New Zealand value and something which people would expect from a New Zealand company. But when you're not growing umbrellas on the land, well, at least I don't think you are, then plainly you have to take quite a different slant towards sustainability. So tell me how that's such a cornerstone to your business today. Okay, so sustainability is just bandied about so much, and for us, it's about, to be effective, you've got to go deep in one area. You can't do everything. And for us, it's really about lifespan in our product. So having a product that you buy and you look after and you have for a very long time, and everything that goes into it for us from an innovation point of view just points towards people owning it for a longer time, which is totally different from every other umbrella sold in the world pretty much, because they were just a throwaway consumable item and people want them to break so they can sell more. Whereas we're totally against that. We want people to own these things as long as possible. So we're sort of making them in a system where they're basically a combination of a whole lot of products put together in one product. So like the canopy can be seen as a product, so that if you own your Blunt umbrella for a few years and you're sick of the look of it, or it gets a bit tatty, then you can change a part of it, a bit like a Lego system. So creating an ecosystem in a product where you can keep putting components in to add value to it over time. So you don't get sick of it, and it doesn't diminish in value over time. It's actually increasing with a little few inputs on the side, which is a good sustainable business strategy, I guess, in terms of still adding value and still getting value from the consumers to operate that. But it's just a different way of thinking. And I think so many products could fall into that.
Yeah, I mean, I think New Zealand's known for, beef and lamb and milk products and these kind of products, but why can't it be known for high quality, scalable premium products that can match it with anything in the world? I think that's where the opportunity is for a lot more smaller businesses, and it's definitely for us.
It's for anybody listening to this to take that lens, we're moving into a period of almost post-consumerism. It's like people aren't moving around, people aren't spending, consumer demand is down a little bit. It's just like people have, I don't know how long it will last, but certainly for the next 12 or 18 months, people are consuming in a much more conscious way. And this, to my mind, makes the opportunity for doing what you've done in any category absolutely wide open. To make something which lasts, that can be replaced, that is modular, that is intelligent, is higher value, is sustainable. Those are the things that enable us to compete in our niche markets anywhere in the world. It's like, I think just the way that you think about a product, which is a product is life, it's not a consumable. It should be a lesson for anybody out there who's looking to create some disruption and change the dynamic of the market. One of the challenges that I know that you have amidst all the intent of sustainability is your manufacturing, because at the end of the day, you're still making a consumer product that still has to reach price points, and there's still constraints of materials and freight and everything else that goes into this. Tell us a little bit about the journey you've been on from your manufacturing point of view, because the quality of the manufacturing is the powerhouse, is the thing that creates the reputation that you've got. How have you managed to grow your manufacturing capability in a way that it aligns with your values, but also with your business strategy and your need for growth?
Well, it's been pretty tricky for us because umbrellas, like the industry, 2004, I think I went out to try and find a way to make my invention. And I just got this message that the whole umbrella industry is run like the mafia, and there's like 10 big players, and if you come along with your idea, they're just going to eat you up. So it was really difficult to even go to the industry with the idea. But we were really lucky in the end with a guy called David Haythornthwaite, who was living in China. He was a Kiwi guy in the industry, which was just amazing luck. And he pointed us in the right direction. So we had to go the traditional manufacturing route, which we weren't that happy with. And we did try to make them here in New Zealand initially, but that was never going to be sustainable, just with the labour content and the expertise that was needed. So it's worked okay, I guess. Like, we've got a really good relationship with this manufacturer in China. But having said that, they're still very stuck in their ways with the way they do things and their culture in China, with not wanting to waste anything, whereas we've always just called on quality, not efficiency. So we've always had our own independent quality control group go in and check every single umbrella before it leaves the factory, which no other brand would bother doing, which costs us a lot of money. But going forward, it needs to be different, because we just don't have the level of exposure to our supply chain. So like I said, for the product to be healthy from a consumer point of view, it's having all those components coming in at different points that add value over time. So we really need to have a lot more exposure to where they're coming from. So our future needs to look a bit different in that respect. We can't just be buying off one point of contact. We need to be buying off a sustainable sort of supply chain that we can pull together and have more control over. And that just benefits in so many areas, because we get more control over the quality of the carbon footprint, and just in terms of components going forward for the consumer to add to their ecosystem, I guess.
This vision of less centralized and more distributed manufacturing, is there a place for New Zealand manufacturing again, inside part of that distribution of componentry and manufacturing?
Absolutely, yeah. And like we've talked about New Zealand production for a long time, but it always comes back to, it just costs so much to do every small thing here. So assembly, if we can design well, which we're trying to do, the assembly process at the end should be minimal labour. So you should be able to get your components in and have all the value add that doesn't make sense in this country come in, and then you can do the final assembly here or anywhere else in the world. So basically close to your market, so that you're actually made in the market of where it can be consumed. And there's so much flexibility in that, because you can customise, you can have a lot less stock holdings for a whole lot of different products. And that's sort of our vision for how that can be a lot tidier. But I think if you're going to manufacture anything here in New Zealand, it's got to be super value add. And it's got to be, I guess, using the ingredients of what's around here as well. So that's where natural materials really excite us for the future. Like what Allbirds are doing with the wool in their shoes, but actually adding the value, not carting around the world to add the value, actually do it here in New Zealand. There's no reason why we shouldn't be doing that. And that's such a massive story for the future.
It is. It's almost, it's like if I understand you correctly, then what you're saying here is that if we design products correctly, and we design them to be manufactured in a more distributed way, then geography actually is no barrier. There's elements of it which can be done here, and elements which can be done closer to market. So we're not just shipping, and we're not just shipping whole products all the time and just expecting to pick up this is the impact of that on the environment. It's quite a different way of thinking about things.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've got to distinguish what manufacturing and assembly is, because manufacturing is actually creating like a component, whereas assembly is something that just gets put together. So if that assembly process is like Lego pretty much, then a consumer can do it. They can repair their own product, and it can be put together anywhere in the world. Like it could be a retail experience to put a product together. And if that's the gauge, then that's pretty damn efficient. And then you've got so much flexibility, and it's just good for the product lifespan and everything. So it's a real win-win.
Yeah, actually, it's like the idea of building a brolly. I mean, it's like it works really well with your super local hyper niche that you're working for as well. You're actually building the specification of the people in that suburb of Manchester. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. It's that think and act global but love local kind of mentality that we try and lay across all of the products that we're working on at the moment. But again, if you can put a bit of that Kiwi, a bit of that New Zealand ingenuity, in with the DNA and package it up and tell a better story, it's only gonna help us achieve a better price at the end of the day on the other side of the world.
Absolutely, and it's like, and the value that you're creating to people's lives for being part of this and for doing things different as well is almost the next legendary step in your story. It's like throughout. I mean, it's like you're still relying on centralized manufacturing in China. So Todd, during COVID, the first wave going through China, did you have major disruption of supply chain going in, or did you manage to get through without too much problem?
It was fairly brief anyway, because it was around Chinese New Year, and Chinese New Year is always a bit of stuff up anyway. There's a shutdown. So it really just made 2 Chinese New Years, I guess, in terms of length.
Yeah, we paused for about 4 weeks. Of manufacturing. It was a bit of a slow start out of that. But that suited us because we, as I said, we put in a contingency and we didn't spring the biggest orders in the world coming into a rainy season. We just carved a bit off them to be a bit more efficient and accurate around what we thought was going to happen, and that's what we followed through with. So it didn't really work against us, but it felt like we were powerless because of it, because we didn't have anyone up there that directly works for Blunt, and we couldn't get on a plane and get up there and into the factory to see what the state of it was. And having lived in China, you would never believe anything that comes out of state broadcasting. So at the end of the day, we did feel like we were a little bit exposed, and knowing that if we had assembly or production somewhere else in the world, definitely back here in New Zealand, we could just isolate ourselves in our own assembly plant if we had to keep production up. We didn't have any of those options because it was so far away from China.
So this theme then is one of control as well, isn't it? We're not just optimizing the carbon footprints and the quality of the products and the customer experience and around that, but also it's about taking back control. So from a business point of view, how on earth do you move from being centralized with one factory in China with everything smooth, operating really, really well for you, and start to make that step to a more distributed manufacturing base? Where on earth do you start with your strategy to do that?
It's quite difficult because it's all or nothing, because when you've got one manufacturer that you've been with for quite a long time and a fantastic relationship with, as soon as you make that step, it's not good for them. So for us,
you've got to rip the plaster off.
Yeah.
I gotta say you got to have some nuts about I think to do it. It's planning 90%, right? It's planning this.
Yeah.
Our strategy is really to do it probably with another product first and then pull the umbrellas into that, which would actually help us along smoothing that process. So obviously we're looking for other products beyond umbrellas.
I do think lots of people are going to be in a similar situation to yourselves, looking to try to get some control back, especially after like supply chains have been broken and are only just recovering ever so slightly. It's like, do you think? I mean, it's like this is the start of more onshoring trend for companies bringing elements of their manufacturing back to New Zealand to be able to get control back on top of this. And is this something which the government should be supporting through investments or through people to help companies to bring elements back to New Zealand?
It's got to be the catalyst, and without doubt, the government need to be involved with it for sure.
But it comes back to what we're doing. Like, we just don't want to bring back the same processes that they're doing in China and think it's going to work. You can't. Like, that's what happened. Is basically we took the process that was inefficient here back in the 90s, took it to China. You can't just bring it back and think it's going to work now. Yeah. So we've actually got to be smarter, and I think design is where it all starts. You just got to have a better product that has better thought put into it, better depth in what you're doing. But there's just some areas of production, I guess, product lines that we just shouldn't be doing in New Zealand. It shouldn't be asked at all. Yeah. We've got to be really honest with what that is. And then comes back to that single-minded vision, that theme. What does New Zealand actually mean to the world, and what are we actually producing for the world? And there needs to be a bit more focus in that area.
Do you think we're missing a trick then as a country, that we're not being thoughtful enough in the way that we design products, and that we're not being thoughtful enough in changing our approach to manufacturing, given how far away we are from all our markets?
I think there's so much depth in this. I don't know. Here again, it comes back down to what we've got in terms of ingredients and what we're not exploiting enough. Like, we're exporting so much raw stuff that's just got so much gold in it, like the milk powder and the fibres and the timber. And we could just be making, I don't know, like, imagine if we were in IKEA, like a sustainable IKEA with all this timber here, like they did in Sweden back in the day. Just one thing like that could change our country. So we just got to think deeper. And I think it's a great time to do it.
I agree. It is a great time. I mean, is this, like, Todd, is this a resurgence that we're going to see here in manufacturing? Is this a new era for the way we go about business in New Zealand?
Look, I hope so. I don't know is the answer, but I think everyone's on their own. Everyone's on their own trip, right? And so for us, it's about the greater good and building a sustainable business that we can hold and employ more Kiwis and actually turn this thing into a long-term game or goal. Whereas there's a lot of other guys out there that are building to sell. And so, those are two different strategies, and they, you need a longer-term vision and ambition, really, that everyone can buy into to make this thing, get through to the train station at the end. Yeah.
The power of one person is just phenomenal. If you get that, look at Elon Musk, and that's a crazy example. Yeah. But just how one person with the right drive and vision, like, he's obviously in what he's doing for the long run, it makes a huge difference. Like, there's some people out just for the short-term money, and there's been too much. Everyone's got a bit soft. There's been too many soft ways to make money in this market, just buying property, and people have forgotten how to actually add real value and through manufacturing or developing things that add real value. That's got to be the, that's got to be the driver in most people's lives. It's a bit of a hard one when everyone's got it so easy. Yeah. So these tough times, it's good for people to readdress what we should really be doing with our time and our energy.
I think NZTE had their hooks into a lot of, good small businesses that are coming up through the F700 and, and all those guys. And I think they're doing a really good job at, sending information down and helping businesses. They've certainly helped Blunt over the years, and they're doing good stuff for us at present. However, I don't think they're bringing everyone in. We're not all in the same Ford pack, at the moment, kind of the backs and the Fords. And I think trying to work out a way to get these guys communicating in one silo, maybe that might be a good start.
It is great to see the extra funding going into NZTE to double the number of focused customers. I think going from 700 to 1,400. So it's a lot of extra hands, because they're doing an amazing job. But as you rightly say, we're not. It's like there's talk of collaboration, but but we're still going about things in the same way. And what I'm taking out from the conversation today is that we actually need to be inspired to stop and think differently about our own businesses, not just from a startup point of view, but for anybody in an existing business. So your use of Elon Musk as an example is great, because that's the rock star businessman. And even though we don't do rock star business people in in New Zealand, because, you know, it's like we are what we are. It's like what you're doing should be the point of inspiration for everybody. These stories like this in boardrooms around the country, that should be brought together. So what do we need to do as a business community to shake ourselves out of complacency, to be able to step up and to look at our challenges differently and approach business in a new way, now that we have permission to do so, because post-COVID, all bets are off?
I think it comes back to values a bit, right? Like, I just think the country needs to be working along a similar path with similar values. Like, I guess we just look at our own business and what we've done to get everyone on that same track and the single-minded vision, and how the country can do that and fall into line. Yeah. So I just feel this with you know, the way the world's going, and just nature and sustainability. Like, it's even in our own country, like we've got the Green Party, and we're just a bit confused within ourselves on where we actually stand with that. And there's got to be a win-win where we're looking after the environment, we've got sustainable technologies, and we're making damn good money out of it. Like, bring all those things together, and that's just such a magic formula. So let's just all get on board with doing that. And that alone is such a focused vision for putting our energy into it. There's win-wins in these things. They shouldn't be seen as compromises for being green, or, you know, it's just get the best of everything. You can get the best of both worlds, you can.
So what's of those to get the best of both worlds then? Like, where are you heading to in the next year or two? Because this is amazing. They've got more sustainable, more reach, more focus. It's like you're doing global and local at the same time. You're making the impossible happen. So it's like, where's the North Star for you at the present moment? What should we expect from Blunt in the next 2 years?
Well, we're gonna go beyond umbrellas, basically, and it's applying that same formula that we're doing with the umbrella, where we're building it pretty much like a Lego system, so anyone can build it anywhere in the world, and you can repair it, and you're just going to own it for a long time. But it's got to start with design. It's got to start with a product that's quite mature, so that we can actually design something that's quite timeless. Like like the umbrella was a great example. It's something that had been around for a very long time and hadn't changed. So there's a lot of examples of other products out there like that, where we can apply that same thinking, where we can refine it a bit, sort of keep it 80% familiar to people, but put 20% innovation in, and then apply that modular ecosystem thinking in the way we build it. And then there's no end to that. Like, we could do so many things in that space. So that's really, really exciting. But we've just got to get really good at executing it. We've been doing umbrellas for a long time, but the next one has to come out a lot quicker and quicker and quicker. So, but yeah, that's our DNA pretty much for a Blunt product, is to have something that you're going to love, and the consumer experience just grows over time.
Innovation never stops, and that's I feel like we're being teased here a little bit that you're going beyond umbrellas. So we really look forward to finding out in due course just how far from umbrellas you go. But we can be sure of those, that whatever you do with those founding values and the inspiration to disrupt not just the products which we use and we own, but also the way that they're manufactured and how we look at global supply chains, then we're going to expect some big things in the next couple of years. So we're just about out of time for this today. It's been amazing to take the time to chat today. Thank you so much to you both for taking the time out to put the world to rights for us and for the audience across the export sector. So to Greig and to Todd, thank you so much for joining us, and to everybody out there who's watching this as well, thanks for joining us as well, and we look forward to seeing you back here in a week's time for some more interviews and some more insights about what's happening out there in the export world. Until then, take care and bye-bye.
Thank you.
Anything else to cover off, gentlemen?
No, I don't think so. I mean, it's quite such a big topic.
The thing that's quite interesting is just areas of the world that have actually in the past have sort of turned themselves around and are really, like, within a generation. Like, there's like Taiwan, you know, with the silicon chip, how they were kind of a third world country, and they all got focused with industry and the government 100% working together, and how in 10 years they just changed their whole economy. And it's like that. That's an example of what focus can do.
And the story behind that, you know, the government official and the electronics expert, and then the guy in from the US, and they just sat around and had some noodles and discussed it and went, "This is it. We're going to do it." And they did it, but they had the right three people at the table. And I guess that's a good example of who's going to be around that table. You know, it takes people like you, Andy, and like, people that are connected to all, you spot the bits of talent and the good bits and the bad bits, and you could make your way through that group a lot quicker and a lot easier than someone at NZTE maybe, who's just going to be sitting in their own camp with their own, depending on which customer they've got underneath their wing, right? But I think, apart from celebrating some wins and celebrating some really cool Kiwi startups, it's about not having that tall poppy syndrome around as well. So you might find that peels away a little bit over the coming months and couple of years with COVID. We actually just got it. We're in the corner now. We've got to fight. We've got to fight like Kiwis.
Wartime. Wartime.
Yeah.
I think it's that, that thinking of if you're getting wealthy, then other people are losing out. We've got to lose that and understand that the wealth comes. What wealth comes in helps us do more of the good stuff. So it's seen as an energy force as opposed to people getting rich, because the wealth separation in this country is a bit crazy like everywhere else. Yeah. But we've just got to look at it like that, like actually celebrate this wealth coming into the country for the benefit of everyone without being too socialistic and shit.
And I think if we're creating wealth through deliberate design as opposed to laziness, like we talked about before. You're like when you're just waiting for your house price to go up and you're using that to leverage to buy another one to make that, then it's like that's wealth for wealth's sake. But what we're doing here, the energy from it's the purposeful creation of wealth for the country. That's the difference. It's doing it with values. It's doing it so that everybody benefits, and you have to have that right from the outset, I think, to be able to achieve it. And it's kind of like I think we're genuinely missing the inspiration from boardrooms like yours. It's like what you're trying to do, it's perfectly natural for you inside what you control in the business in your market to do this. It's second nature, but it's actually extraordinary and it's inspiring, and it's like more of these stories, more of the challenges to get out and to fight and to stop being so complacent around this. This is like we've got to take that story out to the public, otherwise people are just going to get fatalistic, and we can't let that happen. We've got too much to lose, but also we're too blessed with what we've got. It's like what is our silicon chip moment?
I think the whole mental understanding of people, like we need to get as a country really understand, like you talk about stories and inspiring people, but that's just a fraction of what it takes someone to get off their ass and actually do something. And it's that power of that that small group of people that can actually do something. And what does that person look like? Actually understand who they are, find them, and then people operate well under stress. So actually having like a group that just understands people's behaviour and how that affects commercial realities, because I think we're doing the same old thing, like inspiring, and it's all nice and feels good, but when it actually comes to action, it requires someone that's got a real fire up their ass, right? So it's actually finding those special people and not making life easier, make life harder for them, but in the right way to make something better. It's kind of a funny situation. Everyone's trying to support, but in some ways you've got to just really understand what makes people tick. I've got this fluffy vision, not fluffy, but about, Silicon Valley is it's sort of self-seeding because it started with that silicon chip, and there was such an amazing core technology for something to build that's quite massive. Yeah. And same in Cambridge. Like I lived in Cambridge, and there's the silicon fen, and everything spun out of that sort of academic institution. But it seemed like it was well tuned for commercial exploitation, whereas a lot of universities like up the road, it just feels like everything happens so slowly. It just feels like New Zealand needs this core innovation centre that can get the best talent from around the world, because anyone will come here now to live. And it's got this beautiful theme of sustainable technology or something, and it's just got a few, like, say, sustainable construction, sustainable, like looking after waterways, and just processing, maybe reconstituting landfills and things. And we've got some real pinpoint sort of objectives that we're trying to do, like our go to the moon statement. Yeah. And it's just this one area where we do materials super well, and it all sort of, it's just a big soup of amazing stuff, but the commercial and the mental and everything is in there as well. So things happen super fast, and things are just spinning out of there, but it just seems like that's happening, but it's all over the place. Like you got Scion down there in Rotorua, and you got this, but it's all very separate. I don't know.
Turn the whole country into an incubator. That's the solution. It's and everywhere has to benefit. It's like it's the same. What we're talking about is a mentality. It's about proximity to people who have the ideas, to people who have the capital, to people who have the drive to actually make it happen. Yeah. Proximity is everything, and maybe in post-COVID New Zealand, then people want to come here. This is actually a place where you can create proximity. It's the livability of this country, and that's the thing that actually enables people to come to do business. So there's something in that drive to be able to connect people, connect them, and to connect them here, but it stimulates different thinking, because we can't go back doing the same things that we've always done, because we know that's going to be a road
we need to headhunt talent, get the best people in the world here. It's like NASA getting all the ex German World War II, right, to do their rockets. It's like, let's just find the best and just elevate ourselves up to a whole new level.
Yeah,
like overnight, if you get the right people in the room. So don't be scared of doing that, and throw a few billion in it.
Yeah, so it's like maybe
around anyway.
It's like if anyone's got a few billion, then just like we'll borrow that. But it's like, but that's what money's for. It's like that's what creates.
It's not feeding.
Yeah, it will feed back through. It's amazing. It's that the concept of doing Taiwan and reinventing what we stand for, and actually how we incubate business and how we drive design-led purposeful businesses that can have a greater sustainable leadership position in the world. It's like things don't happen by accident. They've got to be supported. This is not about people rocking up with an idea. It's about people being inspired and being enabled to do their work as well. But we've got tall poppy has to go first. If you don't get rid of tall poppiness, we're never going to have the guts to go and shoulder tap the people that we should be bringing here, and accepting that we can't always build it ourselves. It's not about us building stuff. It's us about being the connector in the world.
Yeah. It's the overarching vision that's missing. I think people will fall in and understand it if they know they're going somewhere. So it's like a 2035 our go to the moon statement. It's like, we're going to be at this point here, and when everyone else in the world looks back at New Zealand, they're going to see this, and it's going to make so much sense, and we're just going to be in love with it. Yeah. So everyone just gets that feeling in their gut when they hear that story, and it doesn't have to be a long one.
Yeah.
But it's like New Zealand's just the most natural place on earth, and we want to buy a slice of it. And tourism that's why everyone's coming here, because tourism is sort of selling a bit of New Zealand's purity. But it's not sustainable. It's crap. We should be pushing that, bottling that, not in plastic, but pushing that out in some way. It's just, there's something there. It's just got to be together.
Yeah, it's like the more conversations we have around it, actually, the more like this is where things start to happen. It's like people speak to one person, and then this goes out to lots of people, and then it's like we've got to keep pushing for change.
There's got to be a point of ownership though. Like, someone needs to own this, and it's like, who does that? Like, everyone's so busy in their own businesses like us. It's like, it's a distraction. Yeah. It's a great thing, but it's also a distraction. The bigger picture. So who actually owns? Someone's got to put their hand up and super own this and live it. And it can't be attached to a political party too much, because we don't want it to have a 4-year cycle. So it's got to be non-partisan. So a lot of people are saying the right stuff, but to actually own something like at an Elon Musk level, where you're just insane about it, it probably won't happen. Yeah. So it's like, that's the reality. So it's the power of one. It is.
Jens, this has been an amazing conversation.
Yeah.
I wish we were down the pub. Actually, we keep talking about getting a beard, and that would be so much more liquid. I'm really inspired about your vision for just like more distributed manufacturing. I think it's an amazing way to do it, and if just the whole concept of making a product irreplaceable, design it to be modular, design it to last. The antithesis of the thing that's been doing the bad, the consumerist culture. It's like it's opportunity and post-consumerist New Zealand and around the world.